Well, hey there, friend, and welcome back for another episode of the Your.Hair.Mentor podcast, where I'm your host and your hair mentor, Crystal Green. And I invite you to come take a listen to the top leaders and thinkers and experts and innovators in the beauty industry as they share their stories of triumph and struggles and success in creating their businesses behind the chair. I hope you enjoy these episodes just as much as I did recording them. See you on the inside, friend. Well, Brett, thank you so much for being here on the Your Hair Mentor podcast. I'm happy to have you today.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yay! Will you give us a quick introduction as to who you are and what you're doing and where are you at?
Sure. Well, as you know, I'm a certified financial planner, and there's not a lot of certified financial planners in your industry, which is how you and I met. Um, Long story short, we are in Charleston, South Carolina, and we've predominantly worked as an advisory practice with small business owners. We hit a ceiling of capacity, if you will, meaning we can't really take on many more clients. But if we do take on more clients, my thought process is I want to streamline it. So just like any other industry, I want the behind the stage to be as easy as possible. So in light of that, I said, well, who's my ideal client? And did some research and psychographics and demographics. And at the end of the day, it is my client, Angie, and she is a hair salon owner. Her salon does, about $1.5 million. She is fully funding her retirement plan. It's a commission salon. She has about 15 employees. We work with all the employees. We set it up so she bought her building. Now she's paying herself rent to the building. And then also she's creating this succession plan where she's going to sell the business to her number one stylist and the manager. And so I just love that whole maturation of, from way back when she started all the way to the point where she actually sells it. And then we have retirement distribution. So we're talking about a 25-year thing here. And I just love her, and she does everything I say, and she just says, I want to delegate this. I don't want to do the heavy lifting. You do it, Brett. Just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. And there's also a little introspective there. Reason why I think I'm attracted to that so much is that a child of the 70s, not uncommon, divorce, and I've always had this need of kind of nurturing women. And I don't know if this is because of my mother from the divorce. It sounds creepy when I say it, but I don't know. But I've always been kind of drawn to that. And so just putting all of those together, I said, and I then looked at the beauty industry, specifically the salon industry. And, there's not a lot of people talking about money. And there's some things about mindset and money, and they're awesome, and there are a few accountants that I know, and I know, that are talking about it, but still it's just this open space. And there, at the end of the day, there's so many people in the industry, and there are maybe a handful of people talking about it.
Yeah.
So that was shocking. And so then in January of this year, I said, well, I'm going to dive into this market and see what, if I can make more Angies of my world in my life moving forward. And so we started Unchained From The Chair podcast, and a separate website called brettkfellows.com. And really since then, I've just been reaching out to people like you. That's how you and I met. I've had maybe 50 conversations of business educators, salon todays, coaches, of just, what does this industry need? Where can I add value? And, I don't want to recreate the wheel. I just want to try to collaborate with those of people like you, Crystal, who are already out there doing it, just to, have a bigger impact, a bigger footprint. And so ultimately now, again, is simply I'm trying to do education things and just to build up from there for this industry. And
That's
what led
fantastic.
me today.
Yeah, yeah. I think back to when I got busy as a hairstylist, when I had finally moved. I started as a paid by the hour employee somewhere, and then
Yeah.
I moved into an independent contractor role, right, where I was a booth renter in a salon. And a couple years into that, I was making really good money. I mean, this is
Mhm.
back in 2005,
Okay.
and I was making almost six figures
Yeah.
and didn't save a lick of it. And it was
Yeah.
just like, I felt like this baller. I was like single, no kids. I had roommates, and I was like, just, having
So
fun,
much money.
really. So I just didn't know what to do with it, and there was no guidance anywhere. The only person in my life that knew anything about anything was like my friend's mom that was a bookkeeper, right? And all she did was help me kind of put together my taxes, and that was it. And there was no other conversation about, so Crystal, while you're making this money, what could it do for you? Or like,
Yeah.
think 20 years down the road when you want to retire. That just wasn't even on my mind, and I think how wonderful would that have been to have someone out there, some voice of reason speaking to me specifically.
Right.
Because, these, a lot of the times hairstylists are like creatives, and like that kind of stuff is almost like, it's boring, right? It's boring. It's not sexy.
Yeah.
And so we tend to shy away from it, or it's
Sure.
confusing and kind of overwhelming. And so we don't even know what to ask and how to ask it, right? And so maybe I thought in the back of my head that I needed to figure out what to do with my money, but I had no idea where to
Yeah.
look or what to
Yeah.
do. So I
So how'd you figure
definitely
it out?
see the need. Oh, I married my husband who he was raised Jewish, right? We joke around
Mhm.
that he's like Jew-ish, and so I'm
Okay.
always telling him he's like good with his Jew gold, right? And so he's like my logical
Uh-huh.
thinker, and he was the one that was like, "Hey, so are you just gonna work behind the chair forever?" And I'm like, "I don't know, and maybe we should think about saving some things and
Yeah.
being a little smarter about this." And
Yeah.
even still, I was resistant because I was like, "Oh, what do you know? You don't know anything."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so really it was just him that kind of brought some sense into the equation,
Yeah.
but I can't imagine how many people, don't have their uh, Jewish husband to help them with
Right.
that.
Right.
So yeah, I'm curious to go back to your Angie. When you started with her, where
Yes.
was she in her business? Like, what sent her to you? Because I didn't have that thought ever. Like, I met my husband. I don't know if I ever would have gotten to the point where I was like,
Yeah.
I need financial help. And so, where was she to where
Yeah.
she's like, I need some help, and she sought you out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that was maybe 2010, so over 13 years ago. She was a little bit more, or the salon, I should say, was a little bit more mature. I think she had maybe a front desk and maybe 3 or 4 stylists at the time. Um, and she was over 750, I think, probably in revenue, but it was all by the seat of her pants. She had the growth. She knew she was spending. She had a simple IRA for her stylist, but she didn't know anything about it. And frankly, she wasn't funding it, which was illegal, but that's a separate point because she just didn't know. And somebody's like, oh, you should have this. And then she didn't have a bookkeeper. She didn't have a CPA. And so just kind of, which I think is very natural. You're so busy, especially when you're own your own business.
Mm-hmm.
You are, wheels up, dealing with your day to day, and to deal with this other stuff is just, and it, like you said, if you don't grow up with it, if you're not talking about it, it's hard to plan for any
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, oddly enough, I was a client of hers through my wife. And I would yell at her while she's cutting my hair. And finally, we just started working together. But I think what kind of sold it, if you will, is simply trying to simplify her life by, you've got all these moving parts. How do you get the confidence that you're moving in the right direction? How do you get the confidence that you're not doing things wrong, or you're not missing anything, or someone to almost act like I don't like this analogy, but a personal CFO, kind of just to not deal with the numbers of the salon per se, but help you with your tax return, help you decide where you're going forward, what you can make, and just, tie the salon and the personal finances together.
Mm.
And so that was really what kind of sold her on it.
Okay. So when she came to you, did she have like a very clear system of like, this is how I know how much I'm spending, this is how I know how much I'm making, or was that still kind of just like winging it?
I think that was still winging it
Mm-hmm. It's
at
so
that point.
common.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
Interesting.
and there's not a lot of wiggle room. The cost of goods sold and all of the payroll and all that, it's expensive. So even how much she should pay stylists and the different ways to pay, I think that, is difficult. And again, admittedly, that's not my area of expertise. But I can, at least from 30,000 feet, actually what I do a lot is we do spend a lot of time on the tax return of the business, but I'm looking at what's the profit, and let's just say it's 2% at the end.
Right.
My goal is, okay, can we get this to 5%, 10%, 15%, 20% over, a timeline? Because, and especially if you think you have any desire to possibly sell what it
Mm-hmm.
is you're creating, which I think is fantastic, because you're putting all of this hard work and sweat equity into something. It can be worth of value potentially, but it's only worth, Crystal, what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Yes.
And unless you have the systems and the workflows and the ratios to show that, it's frankly not worth much to anybody else. So as you can
Yeah.
imagine, there's a lot there.
There is. I think what used to happen with salons too, when someone would sell a salon, is they were hoping to buy the clientele that came with
Right.
it. Like that was the property. I'm doing air quotes here because
Yep.
like people aren't property, right? But
Yep.
if you're coming into buying a salon, you're just hoping that you're buying the good name of the salon and the people that want to get served there.
Yes.
There was never discussions of like this being a well-oiled machine, right?
Yes.
I think every salon that was sold was just kind of this like box of receipts. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the equivalent of
Yep.
like, here you go, but you've
Yep.
got clients, so that's what you're buying.
Yep.
Um, I do think people are smarter these days. I feel like there's
Yes.
more and more people talking about salons as more professional businesses too,
Mm-hmm.
which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But then in order to do that, like a clientele is not your asset anymore.
Right. Right.
And it's more like, yeah, how does this business function? What is it called when I've heard this term recently where, like, okay, let's say I'm a stylist in the salon and I own the salon, and then I can leave the salon and it still runs, right? There's like a definition of like who you are as that key player. Do you know what I'm talking
Like
about?
kind of like a silent partner almost.
Yeah, and it's like the value of your business, or like how viable your business is, it should be able to run if you're there or not, right? Like
Yes,
you
correct.
can't be the one that's just like running the whole ship all the time. There needs to be systems in place and processes so that you can step away and it can still
Yes.
function. I
Yes.
forget what that
We always
word
use the
is.
word SMO, self-managing operation.
Okay.
And that's hence Unchained from the Chair, because the thing we had to do with Angie was, and not shockingly, she was the biggest revenue generator. So again, it's not worth anything if she's not there. So we had
Yeah.
to slowly pull her away and build up other revenue sources. Now, admittedly, it's not going to be as high, and or it will take longer. But we had to pull her away so that she could focus her energy on creating those systems and those operations. But guess what happens when you pull yourself away from the chair too? But then it frees you up to do other things. So now she's actually started to do some things with hair loss and traveling and education on that, which is a whole nother revenue source while the salon continues. Now, obviously it may dip for a while, but in time it will come back. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we got to get you again away from the chair, because like you said, otherwise you just have a job. You don't have anything really
Right.
that's a business to sell.
Right, right. So let's say there's an independent stylist in a salon suite
Okay.
that wants to come to you for help, or they're at a point where they're like, okay, I have inventory to manage, I have bills to pay, and I'm making all this money, and I don't know that I'm doing it right. Do you
Yep.
have like a top list of things that you're going to ask that person, or is that your ideal client, or would you turn them away? How would you serve that person?
No, it's not in terms of our ideal client. Obviously, it needs to be a fit and make sense that what they're paying us, they find of value, that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, no, the process is the same. It's what, we start with the end in mind. What does your future look like? Where are you today? And what do you have today? What's the value of the business that you're doing? Maybe do you have any assets, your real estate, whatever it might be? And it's easy math, Crystal. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? And then let's try to get you from here to there. Now, where I kind of come in is Then I look at, okay, from the tax standpoint, should you move from a sole proprietor to an S corp? If that's the case, well, then we got to work with a CPA, and I'll work with the CPA. Or estate planning. Nobody has even just a will. So, just getting the basics set up. So it's not rocket science here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just beginning to save a little bit, or working on the numbers. Like I was saying before, is can we get you to a profit at least to save? Or if we have debt, let's come up with a way to come out of debt first and then work towards it. So there's no real, as you can imagine, everybody has a different story. And everybody thinks differently about money. So what may make sense to me may not make sense to you. So it's kind of my job as a fiduciary just to give you options in your best interests, and ultimately try to get you to create so whatever it is you envision, whether that's retirement or a new job or going off and doing something else. How can we get you there with the least amount of tax
Right.
possible? So,
Right.
frankly, that easy.
Yeah. So I had a recent conversation with someone who is essentially a life coach,
Yep.
that now specifically deals with coaches in the salon industry, which is kind of
Okay.
a very niche market, right?
Yeah.
But he started as just a general life coach with people. And I guess I didn't understand until speaking to him truly what a life coach is trying to do. And so, as a life coach, he's kind of helping. Yeah, it's like, tell me where you want your story to go and who you want to
Right.
be. And then we're going to work backwards from there and get you to like extrapolate what's important and where you're going to lean in and where you need work. And so, you're almost like, you're like a money coach, right?
Yep.
It's like the same exact process, but just like another layer of
Yep.
your story. So like
Yep.
what do you want your money story to be? Where do you want to be in 10 years? And then you kind of
Yep.
work back from there, it sounds like.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I can show you. You want to try it?
Sure.
You have to bear with me for 3 minutes, no more
Okay.
than that. Okay,
Okay.
so this is how it goes. I say, Crystal, what's important about money to you?
Oh, that's a good question. That seems like a very deep question.
Whatever comes to mind first, just right off the top.
Freedom.
Freedom. Okay.
Freedom. Yeah.
So freedom can obviously mean different things to different people. What's
Yes.
important about freedom to you?
I guess to me, when I say freedom, I think freedom to do the activities that I would like to do without feeling concerned about it, right? Okay, for example, I have a family, I have small children, and they needed winter coats, and it's
Hmm.
the equivalent of, do I need to go bargain hunting and try to find the coat that like best fits the bill, or would I like the freedom to just go buy them the coat that I want to buy them?
Right.
Okay.
What's important about not being concerned about what you're buying to you?
I guess it allows more headspace to do things that feel good because it's kind of stressful to be concerned about money.
Okay. What's more important about having that headspace so that you're not concerned about money to you?
Let's see. I guess that leads to a happier, more fulfilling life.
Okay. What's important about having a fulfilling life to you?
That's what it's all about.
So,
Why live if you can't live a fulfilling life, right?
okay. So let's say you're there.
Okay.
Let's fast forward and you've got all that freedom. You're no concerned about what you're buying. You've got that fulfillment and then what it's all about. Let's say you're there.
Okay.
What's a word or two that describes your feeling now that you're there?
Mm, tranquility.
Okay. So that, Crystal, we're not playing anymore. So that's what I call kind of a values staircase. So,
Okay.
and it's the same for everybody. We all do it. And that's why it's annoying. I know I keep asking it again and again, but you said the first layer, you said freedom. Everybody says that. They say security or freedom. It's kind of surface level. But then
Mm-hmm.
eventually you noticed you got to your family. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
does that next. And then third is you get to, what we're about. It's what we're here, or I'll often hear, I didn't grow up with money, or, um, I saw my parents struggle, or it kind of gets to the heart of what you want. Once we get to that, then it's easy because then we just build everything around that and we get rid of all the noise. So very similar to a life
Hmm.
coach. What I do is 95% behavior, 5%
Interesting.
technical.
Interesting. That's really
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is going to be one of the major like road bumps that you might run into doing this with hairstylists and salon owners in particular?
That's a great question. I think we all kind of hit these ceilings of complexity. So I guess I look at the stylist, let's say per se, and they get to a certain level where they're making a certain amount, and maybe what you experience. Although, what do they want to do if they want to get to the next level? How do they remove themselves to get to grow 10x as opposed to 2x? Is that them creating their own salon, or is that doing something different? Um, Helping them work through those instances. Um, so I guess from the individual standpoint, I guess I'm trying to say is how do we get you beyond a certain amount of income?
Mm-hmm.
And usually it has to be some sort of saving to give you the freedom
Mm-hmm.
of time and to go do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then of a larger salon, I get it's the exact same thing. It's okay, you've been doing this and now all of a sudden you want to stop. Well, what does that look like? And how do you get out?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Usually we wait till you have three options. You can shut it down, you can sell it, or you can just die. I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna
Yeah.
leave. It's inevitable. You're gonna stop. So
Mm-hmm.
how do we unwind you from it? That makes the most you can get out of it. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's just walking away, which is fine. But how are we using it the most today to save, keep as much tax at bay and keep as much equity in the business, pay tax later without
Right.
getting technical? It's just how can we use that vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I didn't answer that well, but it's kind of getting through different ceilings of complexity when it gets to money.
Yeah, and in your answer, I thought of maybe an answer as well. So hairstylists in general are a very like emotional people. We like
Yeah,
to serve people. We like to make people feel good. We
yeah,
become emotionally connected to our clients, and I think that's what makes
yes,
us valuable to our clients,
absolutely.
right? It's the connections that we make and the relationships that we foster that keep people coming back again and again and again. And so
Yeah,
a lot of the times, it's really hard for us to disconnect from
yeah,
that. I can imagine if you came to or someone came to you and was like, "Hey, I want to figure out how to make more money," and your answer was, "You need to step back from behind the chair a little bit." They might
yes,
be like,
yeah,
"Ooh, I don't know
yeah,
about that. I don't know what
yeah,
Sally's gonna say when I tell
yeah.
her I can't see her anymore." So that might be a
Really
huge
hard.
hurdle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same in my business. You're selling your time, so you only have so much time, and it's very difficult. I get it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but maybe being able to compare like that journey that you just took me on with that little thing to figure out like what your personal emotions and values and things are tied to,
Yeah.
and then be able to weigh that with like kind of what's more important is it your connections to your clients or your connection to
Hmm.
yourself and what you
Hmm.
want, and then just kind of determine which one's going to weigh heavier and lean
Right.
on that a little bit.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I would think too, the other thing I was thinking of when you said the stylist, the biggest thing or impact we try to have kind of on that level is what I have found is they just want the confidence that they're moving forward, that they're saving towards something, or they're not afraid to spend when they want to spend. So it's not this big technical math equation. It's really just giving them confidence that they're going in the right direction. And then, as you know, life tends to work out over time, and these things all kind of fall into place. But
Mm-hmm.
getting that confidence that you can spend, your family's going to be okay, you're not doing anything foolish, like you said, we kind of grow up never taught about money, so it's not your fault, it's or our fault, it's
Mm-hmm.
just we were never taught that growing up. It's the system that's flawed.
Mm-hmm.
um, so it's okay to be afraid of that. So if we can get the confidence, what if we had the confidence that we're going to be okay? How much of a difference would that make for you?
Right. It's a really interesting industry, I think, because we're kind of this like middle ground between just kind of artsy,
Right.
playful, and fun, and then like serious business, you know?
Yeah.
like other businesses that you fall into, there's already like a system in place where like, you can start here and then you can go there and you can go
Right.
there. And like, this is industry
Yeah.
standard for this and this for that. And the hair industry is just like the Wild West,
Yeah.
you know?
It's low barrier to entry. No industry. Well, I mean, there's like, you don't have to pass a test really to get in, if you will. Um, but the beauty of that industry too is you have unlimited supply. And
Mhm.
and I know times can get tough, but people are always going to need you. The AI cannot replace you.
Yes.
So that's the beauty of this industry, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can we say that again? AI will never replace us. If for anyone listening, that is a wonderful thing. Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
I wonder too, like, I feel like the beauty industry is having a moment right now where it's really elevated in terms of being respected as like a real job and a
Right.
real business. And I wonder if COVID definitely helped us see that in general, right?
Right.
Salons were closed and everyone lost their mind.
Yep.
There was like, oh, who was the politician in San Francisco that was like caught in a salon that she had like closed, right? But she still needed to get her hair done.
Oh,
So she's like,
Feinstein or something. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah. She was
remember
like
that
in there
story.
illegally, you know what I mean? And like
Yes.
everyone is all of a sudden
Every.
very aware of how valuable we are.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, we're going to charge our worth a little bit more. We're going to take this a little more seriously and we're going to be a real business. And so maybe what you were doing wouldn't have hit the same, 20 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
when it was just like this kind of cutesy little thing and haircuts were $20, you
Yep.
know? And now
Yep.
people are making
Absolutely.
good money or have potential to make very good money in this industry, but it's like
Right.
you're trying to kind of find your way as an individual most
Yeah.
of the time and figure
Yeah.
out what that looks like. So I like that there's some implementation of this stuff
Yes.
happening.
Yes. And it's interesting. When I started in January, like I said, I've had 50 of these. Honest with you, one of my fears was, well, are they going to, obviously, they're going to be interested in what I'm talking about. It's very creative. I am not very creative. Um, is this going to resonate with anybody? Would they want to work with me? And a lot of people said, no, it's not really not going to, it's a tough business. There's not a lot of, they're not going to want to spend money on that. But as I continue, I disagree. I think people are very interested in it, and I just see some things happening um, momentum wise more and more that the conversations about planning and money and understanding money 1,000% is very earnest. I think more so in this industry than I would have imagined.
Yeah, and I do think more hairstylists are thinking ahead now too. Like it seems to
Mhm.
be kind of the conversation I'm hearing over and over again is like, where do you see yourself going with this? Where do you see yourself in the future? Instead of just like the now and the today, it's like
Yeah,
actually planning for the future. And so leading with something like that exercise that you did with me to like figure out what is the root of what I want and what's important to
yeah,
me, then all of a sudden financial stuff seems valuable because
right.
I don't know what I'm doing with
Yeah,
finances. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like clearly I had no idea what I was doing. I'm
yeah.
still a terrible business person. Like it is not natural for me, you know?
Yeah. Oh, it's
So,
okay.
yeah, I mean, but having someone that can give you a system to follow
Yeah.
is great.
Now, here's the biggest issue, and here's why it's so important to me. Um, and again, it's nobody's fault. So and I hate this word, but retirement. It's a terrible word.
Yeah.
Makes it sound like you're sitting on a couch or playing golf or something, which nobody ever does. Uh, Here's the issue. It's fairly new. So in our civilization, it's only the 401k, which we now think of as the predominant host of retirement for the baby boomer generation, didn't even start until beginning of 1980s.
What? I did
Yep.
not know that.
So relatively, she's pretty new.
Okay.
Uh, the Roth, you've heard of Roth, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't even come out till 1998. So the
Wow.
Roth is just eligible to start drinking alcohol. So that's how new these concepts are. But yet, I always use the analogy. I have two golden retrievers. They're digging on the rug. From their ancestors from 10,000 years ago. So we've got money concepts that are only 50 years old, and we're supposed to understand it perfectly. Not going
Wow.
to happen. Um, but here's the issue: as if you follow like longevity and those sort of things, we're going to live longer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Social Security, which I think is fine, that can be argumented, but is never meant to be maybe 40% of your income. And so let's say you retire at 65, you live till 95, and that's not uncommon. Your son's going to live to 105, no problem. How do you have enough money to last?
Right.
And so that's a huge, huge issue. It's my job to look in people's pocketbooks, and I see like an issue. So, just easy math. If I want to give you $50,000 a year for the rest of your life, adjust it for inflation, et cetera, I need about $1 million. And I know you will never run out of money, Crystal.
Gotcha.
Now, you may not want to die with money or that sort of thing, and you'll spend more when you're younger and less when you're older. It kind of works out, but just to give an idea, so $50,000, that's not a lot of money.
Right.
$50,000. So if you want $100,000, guess how much I need? I need 2 million. So, all of a sudden we're 30, we're 35, and I'm using these numbers to scare on purpose.
Yeah.
But, we need to have some source of income, whether that's selling our business or saving passively through retirement. It doesn't matter how you get there, but what are you going to do? How are you going to get there? So like health, it's never too late to start. So you got to get started. That's why I think it's so important.
Yeah. Well, I think especially in an industry like this where people's bodies wear out first, and that's what sends them away from working, right? It's a physical job where you're standing and doing repetitive motions, and everyone ends up injured at some point. Everyone I know that has retired they've done it because physically they can't do it anymore.
That's interesting. Wow.
I
wasn't even putting that into the equation, but
yeah. So it's almost more important in a job where you're more physical and you can't work as long too. Like my father-in-law, for example, is a mechanical engineer, and he's set to retire in like 5 years or so. He's 66 already. And like, he happily sits at a desk all day. His job isn't physical. He's like, I could probably work for another 15 years, but I don't want to. And I was like, man, I cannot imagine doing hair until I'm 70, that's physically a lot,
Which is why I don't like that word retirement. I mean, you could graduate to something different, and we're all smart. And that's what's happening more and more is people aren't retiring. They're just kind of going into new industries or doing different things. Which is awesome, because that's a way maybe we could fill that gap of what we don't have. But all to say too, and I was thinking when you mentioned your father-in-law, and me scaring people, it has nothing to do with how much you make either.
Right.
It all has to do with your savings rate.
Yes.
So if you make 50,000 and you're saving 20%, as opposed to somebody who makes 100,000 who's only saving 2%, it doesn't matter. It's your savings rate. So the 50,000 person is going to be better off. You've heard stories of like some janitor left $3 million to XYZ charity.
Right.
It all has to do on your savings rate. So that's the huge part. And as we know, we're used to Amazon orders, getting things instantly, not think credit card. We're taught incorrectly. You need to pay yourself first, meaning save first, spend the difference, where we would do it the opposite way.
Yeah. So do you even go in and help people with like personal budgets for things in their home? Like, I can see that being a hurdle for people not understanding that.
Yes. So yes, and no. I hate budgets just as much.
Really?
I
would think you loved them.
No. And budget means restriction too. And just, I don't even like it.
So do you have a word to replace it?
Awareness.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
Who doesn't want awareness? Yes. Like whether it's your salon or anything, you need to know your numbers. So you need to know where you're going. I don't care if your dining out is X percent and your car is another percent. I could care less what it is. But you need to know where it's going. Now, if you tell me you want to get to, from point A to B, I may tell you, well, you need to tweak your percentages, but I'm not going to tell you which need to go. All of which to say, we use technology. So even your bank or your credit card probably is doing it for you. So we'll just even take that, or we give our clients, we create a website for them and they connect their bank accounts, their mortgages, their everything. So it's all in one place. And part of that tool is it will itemize where everything's going. And we just refer to that. to be honest. So I don't, I know what's kind of what needs to be what, and I know a car should never be more than 5% or your debt to equity ratio. But if I start talking about that to you, your eyes are going to glaze over. So it goes back to your values, like we had, and I'd say, Crystal, doing this, would it give you that peace of mind that you were talking about earlier? Um, would you rather have this, or would you rather be able to buy your son things and not worry about it? It all goes back to the value conversation. So yes, we do, but we really tie it back to you deciding what's important to you.
Funny. Listening to you talk, you sound like these high-end personal trainers,
Okay.
right? Like when you're
Yeah.
saying like, it's not, you don't say budget, you say awareness. I'm like, oh, it's funny. They don't use the word diet. Like they're
Uh-huh.
like, we would never put you on a diet, just like you would never
Right.
put someone on a budget. It's about
Right.
your like, we just need to know what your macros are. We need to know your
Yeah.
awareness,
Right.
right? If you're
That's
going to eat a
fun.
candy bar, what are you not going to eat the rest of the day so that you're
Yeah.
like adjusting as you go and your awareness is high,
Yeah.
right?
I love it. I've never been
That's
called that. I like that.
I like
Been
it.
called a
It's very similar.
psychiatrist many times, but never a trainer. So that's good.
Uh-huh. But it's a really similar mind frame.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like you said, like getting to the like emotions and the thinking behind things instead of just like the numbers.
And that's exactly we did a talk about the psychology of money. And people think that money is like science or math. It needs to be an equation, but it's not. It's more about psychiatry. It's more about behaviors and how you think about things. And so when people say, I'm not smart, I didn't go to college, I'm not smart enough to handle money, it has nothing to do with how smart you are. It's more just about how you behave and react to things. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's why it makes sense when I have found to work with clients to speak in that language.
Absolutely. It makes it more
Yeah.
sexy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
It does. Yeah. It turns it into like, oh wait, no, I can think about that. I
Yeah.
can talk about that. Right.
Well, yeah, because if it's not compelling, you're not going to take action. And then
Right.
what good have I done you? I've not helped you at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's bad about our industry. And that's why I think my industry, meaning, and that's why I think people think of financial advisors or something. It's terrible. And they have a right to say that. But I would say to anybody who's thinking about a financial advisor, it's not, if you're thinking stockbroker or they lead with investments. Have you heard me talk about investments
Nope.
at all?
Not one bit.
Run away. You don't you don't need that. There are computers that handle that now,
Mm-hmm.
that cost nothing. So they really, if you're going to pay someone, what value are they adding to your life? And then, you only know what the value is. You're the only one who can tell it. And if that makes sense for you, then I think it's a good idea. Otherwise, don't do it.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine if you get someone used to, not to come back to like a personal trainer analogy again, but you get them used to flexing that money muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
That money mind muscle and understanding how their decisions affect their personal life and their business and all that stuff too. That might help with this topic that's swirling around right now where everyone talks about emotional discounting with their clients.
Okay.
Have you
Yeah.
heard people talk about that?
Yeah.
It's like rampant in the industry because we feel bad and we don't want to charge our
Yeah.
client because they're having a hard day or whatever.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine that if you're comfortable and confident thinking about money and how it's going to affect you and your business, it's going to make you more confident to charge what you believe you're worth and
Yeah.
not just give away your services or give away money
Right.
just because you feel a certain way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The mindset of that is you will never be worth more than what you think you are worth in your mind. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to definitely stay by that rate and charge it and never go down. Just keep going up. But I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking too, when you're saying that, and that even goes back to the whole Dave Ramsey. But why do you think, if you've heard Dave Ramsey, paying off credit
Oh, yeah.
card snowball, why does he think he says take the smallest first? Because then you pay it off first
Yes.
easily, and then it gives you confidence. You get endorphins,
Yes.
and then you go to the next one. It just gives you confidence. And then even on my world, or even on kind of the investing side, it's compounding interest. So if you've ever seen, you can Google this. If I offered you a penny, or if I offered you $1 million today,
Mm-hmm.
or a penny that would compound over 30 days, which would you choose? You had to choose right now.
Oh, well, I feel like I should choose the penny just because of the question.
Yeah, so
But
the penny will be worth $10.3 million in 30
what?
days if it compounded. Now remember,
Whoa.
1 to 2, 2 to
Yeah.
4, 4
Yeah.
to 8, 8 to 16. It's the eighth wonder of the world. It's amazing.
Wow.
Um, so just to give again that sort of confidence, even if you're saving $10, just
Yeah.
all of a sudden your money starts to make money on its own.
Right.
And time is the greatest asset anybody has. So every day that goes by, we're missing that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the same thing as flexing that muscle. Is compounding interest is huge,
Yeah.
huge.
Do you help stylists or salon owners? Do you coach them to how they should charge their clients? Like in terms, like if they want to charge a certain amount, do you tell them that like, remember, there's a certain percentage you have to save out of that? Or is that a
Yeah,
conversation you
I'll
have?
back into the number.
Uh-huh.
So again, I don't know what the value of this is versus that.
Yeah.
Um, I will always say you don't charge enough, but I'm more apt to back into the number. If we're short here, well, there's only one or two things we can do, Crystal. We can take away expenses, and you're like, I don't see that happening, or you can charge more and just try to give you the confidence that you can do it.
Gotcha.
And just the same sort of thing. Start small. Start with new clients only, and then go. That
Right.
sort of thing, and it just builds that momentum.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to avoid those confrontational things. I just try to back into the numbers and make you answer the question.
Yes. Like any good psychotherapist or life
Right.
coach would do, right? It's like, no, I didn't
Yep.
actually say that. You did.
Yep. I always say, consider this.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
I
it's
love
fun.
that. So before we got started here, you mentioned that you had, were they like little freebies that people can access? What were those that we talked about? Remind me again.
So the one thing I think, if you're thinking about working with an advisor, but you have no idea what to ask or no
Yes.
idea what to look for, I wrote a couple of years ago, the 10 things to avoid, 10 mistakes to avoid when you're talking with a financial advisor. So yes, I'm happy to send that to you.
Yeah.
Feel free to post it.
Do you remember those off the top of your head real quick? Can you give us a rundown?
You're going to do that to me. For little things like if they lead with investments, run away.
Mm.
If it's your brother's cousin, don't do it. If it's a name brand, don't do it.
Hmm.
But then more things like, understand how they get paid. So again, my industry was for the 80s and 90s was the advisors got paid what they sold. It's not that way anymore. It's advice. So they're selling advice. So it should be a flat fee. So you should
Mm.
walk out knowing I'm going to pay X amount of dollars or X amount percent of my investment or whatever it might be. But you should know what that fee is and how it's going to get paid. So that's kind of the biggest thing. Why would you not know what you're going to pay somebody?
I wouldn't even think that would be a problem. Like that seems like a very weird, sneaky thing.
Right. But
Hmm.
have you ever worked with an advisor before? Let me ask you.
No, I haven't actually.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, all right. How about this? Do you know how much your uh, property and insurance person gets paid?
I have no clue. My husband
Right.
handles all of that.
Well, no, right. So, but again, it's the same thing. We have no idea. So it doesn't matter. Insurance is easy to pick on.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you. I mean, I can back into what the State Farm insurance agent is making on my auto insurance and
Okay.
my home, but it's not in your bill. They don't
That's
tell
true.
you that.
Right. That's true.
It should be more like a CPA. If you're getting your taxes done, you know what that's going to cost. If you work with an attorney, you know what that's going to cost. It should
Hmm.
be much more transparent.
Because it's a service that you're
It's a
paying for.
service. Yep.
Right.
So
Makes
it's no
sense when you
different
say it
than
that
your
way.
business. So
Right.
that's a huge change. And I would say that's the number one thing you should know.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So let's say someone wants to find help.
Okay.
Where is there like, I mean, like if I were just looking for help, I'd probably go to like Google Business and just try to
Yeah.
find someone local. Do you think that's the best route, or is there what like indicators of that someone would be better than others?
So that's a great question. Oddly enough, the number one Google search for advisors is advisor near me.
Oh,
So,
okay.
that is the way most people find it. What they should know. again, no, it's really just a relationship. It's, do I feel comfortable with this person? I would say, and understand their process. And again, you'll see that when I send the 10 mistakes to avoid. Um, and selfishly, I would say look for someone who knows what you do, or work with someone who who can tie your business, if you are in business for yourself or you're in the industry, you're thinking about it, and your personal, tie the two together. Don't just go for somebody for investments.
Is it common in your industry to see people virtually? Like, is that do you have clients that you see virtually, or are they all in person?
My meetings are May and October. So we do all of our planning meetings in May and October. So I have like 6 appointments today. I will tell you that 95% of them are virtual.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So
And
that was going to be my next.
the only ones that come in are not it's the old lady down the street who
Yeah.
wants to come in, or a couple that just really enjoys it.
Okay.
So yeah, I have office space I frankly don't need, but I just like it to get out of the house. But I'm almost 100% virtual now.
Okay. So then it's really not even about trying to find someone necessarily where you live. You're just trying to find someone that you jive with.
Not today. Yeah, not today.
And how
Absolutely.
often do you meet with people? Like, so you just said you meet twice a year. Like, let's say you're bringing someone in as a new customer and you're doing like onboarding stuff with them. How much time like, if I was going to work with you, how much time would I expect to be spending with you?
Yeah, so we have 2 models. One is we meet with clients. So when I say meet with clients twice a year, that means we're doing big planning. So we always meet just in May, which is right after tax season. So we'll review your tax return, we'll see what happened, we'll review your investments, all that sort of stuff, and look forward to the year coming ahead. So I call it the 4 seasons. So it's spring meeting, and then we look what's ahead. What are we going to do this year? How are we going to accomplish it? Then in the summer, there's a lot that goes into that. And then we meet in October again. And then we kind of take, okay, how much money have you made? How much have you saved? What do we need to do before December 31st in order to optimize anything that we can or
For
can't?
taxes.
For
Right.
taxes,
Yeah.
or if you're working with an employer, your retirement plan that stops 12/31. It doesn't, and this is you and your spouse too. So we always, if you're married, we will only work with you with your spouse.
Gotcha.
So it's the two of you, and they may have nothing that we're managing, but it behooves us to work with both of them, because otherwise it's all going in different directions. um, and so May and October, those big meetings. Now, if a client doesn't need that, we meet with them in just February. So you either meet in May and October, or with a client once a year, and that's just in the month of February. So they don't need that amount of work. Now that's when we plan it, but we're available 12 months to a year to the client. So we're always working on something. Like, might be, Crystal, from May to October, you were going to work with an attorney to get a will done. It's my job to hold your hand to make sure you get that done by October. And so we're always working on things like that.
Gotcha.
The onboarding, which is a great question, that is usually probably 3 to 5 meetings. First meeting is, send me all of your stuff. I need to quantitative and qualitative understand everything is about you. Then this next one's kind of get everything up, show you organize everything for you in that one place, and that website, show you how to use it, et cetera, et cetera. And then by the third meeting is kind of that kickoff of, okay, we've decided what we want to accomplish in the next 6 months or something. So
Right.
it could be 3 meetings to get started, and then those 2 meetings, if you will. So 5 meetings that first year.
Okay.
Then it's kind of 2 meetings every year after.
Cool. That doesn't sound crazy.
No,
Yeah.
we're always working on something, and we always, celebrating progress is a huge thing. And we always look at the gap and the gain, meaning we celebrate from where you came from, not where you're going. Because it's a huge, we always think, all right, or if you think about the horizon, you're going to get to the horizon. Can you ever get to the horizon?
Right.
It
No.
keeps moving. No.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen. So, and if we don't celebrate what you've accomplished, that actually would give you that muscle that you can make bigger and bigger and bigger jumps. That's a huge thing we do in those meetings.
Gotcha. So here's a question for you. And I don't know if you're the right person for this or not, but maybe you
Yep.
know who would be if it's not you.
Yep.
Because I imagine there's a lot of listeners that are going to be thinking, well, this sounds great, but I'm not there yet. Like
Yep.
I either don't have the means to pay for this yet, or I'm so disorganized that my business isn't even there yet. Because in our industry, we graduate beauty school and then we're just, tossed out into the great wide open to figure things out. Now,
Yes.
I personally, I floundered for quite a while trying to understand how to run a business when I was on my own. Like, I didn't even know what write offs were my first year
Yep.
and did taxes, and it was like I paid way too much money because I had no receipts for anything, right?
Yep.
Um, is that something that you would support people with, or is there someone else that they would look to if they were like a new baby stylist trying to start their business to be on the path to needing someone like you later?
hmm
Where would you recommend they start?
So there's lots of ways. Let's just say at its base level, read. Um, Two books. One is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and it just talks about money in the simplest form. And it's not technical, it's really well done. It's a wonderful mindset to have about money. Um, then from there, yeah, I could list kind of thousands of books. Even just kind of the Dave Ramsey. I would just even say Financial Planning for Dummies. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Just get to understand what is a deduction, what is a credit, those sort of things. I think that I sent you a book that we wrote, of 30 advisors. We each wrote a story about the impact we've had from all different walks of life of impacting clients. So books are huge. A big proponent of reading.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would say there are advisors, NAPFA, NAPFA, National Association of Professional Financial Advisors. So those have to be fee-based advisors.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be a lot by location. You can find someone. And as you can imagine, it runs the gamut. So you've got less expensive ones or you have more expensive ones, and you could feed through that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then even specific to us, we create, where I think I told you we were creating a course, financial planning course, that's have everything from what is saving, how to read it, what does my credit statement mean, to how do I save
Mm.
for a wedding. It's going to be a very inexpensive online course that we're going to have out this year. Um, so, and then we'd have different gradual models too.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on what the client needs. And again, when you say, I don't want to pay for it, we're not talking a lot of money. It shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Even at its base level, let's say $3,000.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
For a year.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's 1% of somebody who makes $30,000. So is it not worth that much to you to feel
Right.
like you're making progress?
Right.
So um, I would counsel, again, you don't need, and if somebody says no to you because you don't have the investments, well, then that's not a fit anyways. You don't want that because they're trying to get you to make money off of your investments. You want to charge for the advice.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get them for plans 1250 through, we start at 3,000. So I mean, it's not a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
My argument would be.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. It's not a lot of money. I'm just thinking of, people that are coming into the industry completely overwhelmed and, don't know which way is up because they've spent all of their energy, time, and money into product research. And
Yeah.
they're doing all the like sexy stuff, but they don't even understand how to write things off, or how to organize their business so that when it's tax time they're not like
Yeah.
freaking out. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
so I wonder, like, obviously, like, that's, I don't want to say it's like below you, it's not below you, but it's like it's so baby steps first to even
Mm-hmm.
get to the point where you need someone to do financial planning. It's almost like business planning, I guess,
Yeah.
maybe is what it needs to
Yeah.
be.
And
I
then
don't know
there are, people in the industry like Nina Tulio or Kelly Cahan, Scissors Make Sense, that all do that type of coaching too. So, within the
oh
industry, I can make lots of referrals as well.
Yeah, I
Anybody's
didn't know that
interested.
Nina did that. That's interesting. I know she does like
Yeah.
some upper level education stuff.
Yeah.
But okay, I'll link that in the show notes too. I think that would be helpful
Well,
for people.
let me not speak for Nina. Maybe it is,
Yeah,
but I know she
yeah,
talks numbers, that sort of thing. So,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I'll send you a couple definitely that I know handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And if
Awesome.
anybody, wants to reach out to me and just, I'm happy to have a conversation. And I'm the first to say we're not a fit or you
Mm-hmm.
don't need me or that sort of thing, but we'll always find somebody who can help you.
Yeah. Oh, and that was the other thing that you mentioned before we got started here was you had an offer to look at people's tax returns with them
Sure.
to
Yes.
see maybe what could be helped or changed or anything like that.
Yeah. So this has been the most impactful thing for our practice the last 3 years is essentially we bought an accounting software and with a PDF copy of your personal tax return, I can turn around a tax return analysis. It's not that sexy, but do you understand how to even read your tax return? Nobody does. So
Nope.
it helps. So I help you read your tax return in a really simple way, but it points out like you're close to this tax bracket. I noticed you have an HSA. If you had put $1,000 more in the HSA, you would have avoided this tax bracket, or you're missing this child credit, or this deduction looks out of whack. We found more mistakes on tax returns than you can imagine all by having this. So it's been a wonderful tool for us. So again, it's nothing I do. It's in terms of I don't have to do the math. The
Mm-hmm.
software does it for me. All I need is a copy of your personal tax return, and we send a secure link so that people can send it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy for me to have a conversation with you afterwards and just go over the report with you. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to offer that to your listeners as well.
Wonderful. I think that's a really good step towards maybe trusting someone like you. It's like
Yeah,
immediately showing value that you can add
right.
to them and their business and their life. So that's really
That's
cool.
right. Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Well, I will put the link to both of that and then the 10 financial
10
planning.
mistakes to avoid.
There we go.
Yes.
Yes, I'll put that in the show notes as well. And I think I had all my questions answered here, unless there was anything else you wanted to add to this, Brad. I feel pretty good.
No, that's great. I thank you, Crystal, as always, for your smiley face and your attitude that you're doing. And I love following you and appreciate being a guest on your podcast today.
Awesome. Well, I think you're doing great things. And oh, tell us when your course is due to launch. Do you have a launch date yet set for that?
I do not. Allow me
Okay.
to get back to you. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. We'll just put that out there for future feelers then.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah. So Unchained from the Chair is the podcast and Twitter, or not Twitter, forgive me, Instagram. And then Brett K Fellows, that's what 2Ts.com is the website.
mhm.
And you can see my schedule there and get on our email list and anything like that.
Tell me really quick because we didn't talk about this at all. Your podcast. Do you bring other experts in? Do you just talk topics, or like you're speaking to people behind the chair, right? Because it's Unchained from the
Yes.
Chair. What does your podcast look like?
Yeah. So far it has all just been me, which is really boring. But that was just because I said I started it in January. I wasn't sure where this would go. And then I've just, through meeting you and others. So we are switching. So we post it weekly, but after I'm done with my May meetings, we're going to kick off into a bi-weekly. So one week might be with you. The next week's going to be me talking about a topic, maybe in depth that you and I spoke of, but in greater detail.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be every other week where we're going to bring people like yourself, salon owners. I really want to get salon owners too. I love hearing your story more than
Mm-hmm.
anything else. I love why'd you decide to do it? How scary was it? What was the
Mm-hmm.
biggest mistake you made? Those types of podcasts is really what I'm looking to do starting this summer, and then have educational ones with in between them.
That's wonderful. I think that's really impactful for people and, might help kind of massage into their brain that the
Yeah.
financial stuff is good, right? Like
Yeah.
sell it with a story. We like
Yeah.
that. We like stories.
Yeah.
So
And
fantastic.
another great, you make me think of all these. Sorry.
That's okay.
I think do you get my Friday Blitz
Uh-huh.
emails?
Yes.
So that's another thing, a way to educate very easily. And those aren't difficult. I don't know if you've read them. If you haven't, that's okay.
I have. Yes.
But those aren't I write those a lot so that they're not overwhelming. It's just kind of mindset So that's another you can get on that on our website. So those are pretty good too, I think.
Great. Yes, I think so too. I think it's digestible and small enough
Yeah.
that it's not like a huge heady
Yeah.
involvement. It's just like a
Yeah.
quick read, and I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brett. This has
Thank you,
been
Crystal.
a pleasure, and I look forward to staying in touch. And I'm probably going to start listening to your podcast myself. I want to hear salon owners' conversations too, so that's great.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and I will be in touch.
Have a great day.
You too. Okay. Bye bye. All right, friend. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Your Hair Mentor podcast. It has been my pleasure to be here as your host. Again, my name is Crystal Green. And until next time, my friend, as I always love to say, have a wonderful hair day, and I'll see you then. Okay, bye.